Okay, we will call this board meeting to roll call. Everyone is in attendance except for Marina, and she is working this evening. Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The Viroqua School District provides a quality education for all students that inspires continuous learning, positive relationships, curiosity, and compassion in an environment that welcomes diversity while developing respectful and responsible citizens. Could I have a motion to move the student board reports ahead because they have some assignments this evening that they have to get to? Is there a motion?
And they are actually just getting connected.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Second? All in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Are they ready?
No, we're
No.
gonna go to the next thing.
We're gonna go, that one might be long.
It's okay.
Okay. The audit report is next.
Okay. So as joining us on the screen from Holman tonight is Kim Hollerman. Kim has been with Johnson and Black probably for she did her internship when I was there back in probably 2009. Kim, would that be right?
Yep. And then I left briefly.
And so she works out of their La Crosse office right now. And how many school districts did you end up doing this year?
I have 5 that I'm in charge of. I guess I'm not sure. I think we have maybe 20 or so between La Crosse and Viroqua.
So
Thank you for doing this virtually, Kim.
Yeah, I appreciate you letting me do that.
and so she, linked to your board report is her presentation, so you can follow along, but she is going to share her screen if I can figure out how to allow you to do this. Can you do it, Kim?
No, it says it's disabled.
Okay. Advanced sharing options.
Only
Who can
host
share?
all
Participants. Yep.
There we go.
Okay, thanks, Kim. We see it just fine now.
Okay, I was just gonna change my view of you guys. Oh, that's it. Okay, so I'm gonna jump down to page 2 and just an overview on our audit. So we completed our audit as of June 30th, 2020. We issued our normal unmodified opinion, which is just a clean audit opinion. And then we presented your documents in a bound document. So your original audit report didn't include your single audit this year. That's kind of unusual. The OMB, the federal government, delayed issuing their requirements to us. So we actually just finished that up here in the last month. So your single audit report is a report on your federal and state awards. For that year, you had expended 1.5 million of federal funds, and we did not have any findings related to federal single audit or state single audit this year. One financial statement finding that we still have is the segregation of duties. It's very common for an entity of your size, and we only give you a significant deficiency versus a material weakness for that because you do a good job of segregating the duties as much as you can. The scope of our audit includes all funds and activities of the district. Management has reviewed and accepted the financial statements and adjusting journal entries. And then we did issue a separate audit communication document. And in that we just had a management letter comment again for the old outstanding checks. I think they date back to 2002. It's not a material amount, but just make sure you get that policy in place and follow the policy. And then GASB 84 This was also in your report last year. GASB extended that due date to have that implemented. So that does need to be implemented for the current year. And that's related to your activity funds and your scholarship funds. So I'm not sure if you've done that already, but just make sure those get moved if they need to get moved.
Basically what that is, in the past, the activity funds, the student activity funds were all recorded in the Fund 60. And basically we had an asset and a corresponding liability for those funds. GASB 84 now makes us account for it because truly it is still under the district's control, I guess you would say. And since it's not a true fiduciary activity, now we have to show the actual revenues and expenses. And getting accountants to change how they do something is very, very, very difficult. And so we're there, Kim. I'm ready to go ahead and restate to July 1st, but I mean, we'll be there by the time, hopefully by the end of this month.
Did that have to do, Mike, with also some of the checks that people didn't cash?
No,
No, that
but
wasn't
but
part
it's
of
gonna
that?
figure in. Yeah. No, but it's gonna figure in. Sorry, Kim.
No, that's okay.
Yep.
And then we submitted all your reports to DPI. And then just a note that the 2015 through 2017 were from a prior auditor. And the next page is your income statement. So your general fund, can you guys see that? Or you have your copies, so you're.
It's small, on the
Small.
screen, Kim, but
Yeah, I don't know how big I can make it so you can still see everything.
they do have.
Yeah, we have it in our report. If we
Okay. Okay, so the general fund had revenue of 14.9 million, expenditures of 15.1 million, and other uses of 83,000. So a decrease of 237,000, and an ending fund balance of 4.8 million. Debt service had revenues of 923,000 and expenditures of the same amount. So an ending fund balance of 671,000. And then your non-major funds, which are your special revenue, food service, the cooperatives, capital projects, long-term capital improvement, and your community service funds. They had revenue of 981,000, expenditures of 1 million, other sources of 90,000, and an increase of 38,000. Ending fund balance of 377,000. So in total, you had an ending fund balance of 5.8 million compared to the 6 million last year. The next page is your budget to actual for your general fund. So you budgeted 13.9 million in revenue. You actually had 14.1 million, so a positive variance of 157,000. Expenditures, you budgeted 12.7, and you actually had 12.8 million, so an unfavorable variance of 94,000. And then just a small positive variance for your other financing uses of 52,000. Overall, a positive variance of 115,000 for your general fund budget to actual. Next page is your special ed budget to actual. So you budgeted 1.1 million in revenue. You had 828,000. So unfavorable variance of 232,000. Expenditures, you budgeted 2.6 million and you actually had 2.3. So a positive variance of 234,000. So in the end, you ended up needing about $2,000 less of a transfer to special ed.
And a lot of that this year, Kim, was due to the way the year ended and not being able to spend the federal grants. And we're not alone in that in our district. I mean, just, it really changed the looks of everything on those federal grants.
Yep. Okay, and then your fund balances. So you can see you have a small amount, about 7,000 in prepaid or non-spendable fund balance, which is related to prepaids. And then restricted fund balance was about 2.1 million or 37%. And then your unassigned fund balance was 3.7 million or about 63%. And we like to see that you have about 20% of your expenditures in that ending balance. And I look like you were at about 21%. So you're sitting really good there.
And we have a policy, don't we, Mike? What is the range? you
I
remember-
don't think we defined a range in our policy.
Did we not?
I don't think so.
Okay, we had talked about it at one point. I'm thinking of Western, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, and then a trend in your general fund balance. So as you can see, it's increased over the 6 years presented. It's increased about 16%. You did have a small decrease of about 5% from the prior year there. And then a breakdown of your revenues. So 51% came from state sources, 32% property taxes, 9% federal, 6% inter-district and intermediate sources, 2% other local sources, and then just 14,000 from other sources. And then just a note that the most significant revenue from state sources is your equalization aid at 6.9 million. Chart showing your property tax levy analysis. So you can see it's remained pretty constant. In total, it's decreased about 3% over those 6 years. Just a breakdown, 2% goes to non-referendum debt, 15% to referendum debt, 82% general fund, and then just 1% to the community service fund. And then this chart shows your equalization aid. So this also remains pretty constant. We've had about a 7% increase over the 6 years presented. Just a note, the equalization aid is based on your enrollment for the past 3 years. And then the next page kind of shows a trend in your enrollment then. So this graph kind of looks alarming, but really the variances there are pretty small. Overall, it's just a 1% decrease over those 6 years, and then just a small increase from the prior year. Then your expenditures. So 52% went to instruction, 34% support, 5% non-program, 5% debt service, and 4% capital outlay. And your last page, this shows your long-term obligations. So you can see you have some bonds, a bond premium, and then your capital lease on your phone system. So you had a beginning balance of 3.9 million. Excuse me, payments of 883,000, an ending balance of 3 million, and then about 629,000 was due in the current year. And then down below just shows your debt limit. So you had a debt limit of 64 million, and you have 2.9 million that was subject to that limit. So 61 million remaining, or about 96%. I'm going to stop sharing. And what questions do you have for me?
Does anyone have any questions? Going. Thank you, Kim.
Yes, you're welcome.
Sounds like you're a little sick. I hope you feel okay.
Yeah, I unfortunately had COVID a couple of weeks ago and now have a sinus infection. So
Okay.
it's been fun.
doesn't sound 100% fine, but very nice to see you. Thank you for presenting. I hope you feel 100% soon.
Thank you.
All right, have a good night.
Thanks, Kim.
You too. Bye.
Mike, did you have anything you wanted to add or?
No, and I shared this with Kim earlier, I think she's left, we're going out, our calendar says we go out for 3 years. I certainly hope that we're able to stick with them. They've been good to work with. But I think it's good policy that we go out for quotes and bids, and we will take a look at those and analyze them probably already at the next board meeting.
Okay.
So we can start planning for the following year.
So congratulations on a very clean
Yeah.
audit report.
Yeah.
Thank you
It was,
for all your work.
They came in August, and ours was one of the first that they came on site. But they did do a lot remotely too, because they're struggling with how much to be out and about and
Absolutely.
people's workspaces and everything, let alone the places we had to have kind of a meeting as a group to say, do we want them to come in or not? I mean, and so it was a unique year that way. Obviously, we're all going to be more ready for that next year and everything. And then just in general, the nature of the business of, there was a lot of stuff that went on last spring. There was just a lot of stuff. So, yeah, they were very good to work through us with that.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your work with them. Do we have Olivia and Abby?
They are both here. Olivia is just unmuted, and Abby, are you there?
There they are. Hi, Olivia and Abby.
Hi.
Good luck with your projects as we get started. You want to go ahead with your presentation?
Yeah. So we are here to talk about Cabin Fever Week, and this year was a little different, of course, just like homecoming was. And so we tried to do something that's a little like school spirity. And so a big part of Cabin Fever Week are dress up days. And so last week on Monday and Thursday was like the theme was California, because this year's theme was road trip. So Monday and Thursday of last week was California. So like dress kind of summery, which was hard because it was really, really cold, but it was still fun. And Tuesday and Friday was Wisconsin. And then this week we continued Cabin Fever Week to kind of extend the time because we're in school half the time. So Monday and Thursday of this week are Texas themed. And then Tuesday and Friday of this week are New York themed. And so we tried to do some dress up days that would be fun like that.
Sounds like we should have picked Alaska.
Right.
So what does one wear? What does one wear for New York Day?
I would have dressed really cold.
Yeah, or like more like fashion forward, like New York Fashion Week. You could really take it anywhere.
Okay, thank you.
And then we also tried to do some activities, which Abby is going to talk about.
Yeah, so tomorrow, A Day is going to, during fourth block, we'll be going around to different classrooms. Some will have movies, some will have board games, really whatever the teachers wanted. And we got to pick where we go. We do this every year. I think some people are going cross-country skiing, actually, with Mr. Benzine and Mr. Marshall. So that's going to be really fun. And then we're also going to have a scavenger hunt where we have the rocks that we use from homecoming week. We're just hiding them around the school and you get various prizes. And we're also doing a food drive, and everyone puts their name down if they donated, and then we're going to draw names and they get prizes as well.
Sounds very fun. Very fun.
So Angie, what are you wearing for New York Day?
So I was in New York during Thanksgiving one year, and they have a Santa Claus event where everybody bar hops dressed as Santa Claus. So one of my biggest memories of New York was seeing thousands and thousands of Santa Clauses. I think I dressed up like Santa Claus because it was pretty good conversation piece. And then there were elves. There were lots of elves too. So that's probably not what you guys were thinking
Yeah,
of.
we don't expect anyone to dress up like Santa Claus.
I was not part of it. I'm not saying I was part of it. I'm just saying that I saw it and it was pretty remarkable.
All right. I think next time I'll just ask Matt what he's going to do. Good plan, Robert.
That is a good plan. I was just wondering if people got like all dressed up like they were going to a play or, something like that. So anything, I'm just curious. And Wisconsin, what did you wear for Wisconsin? That's a little easier.
Just like-
You go.
We just wore like Wisconsin apparel or like warm clothes, which we've been having to do.
Did anybody wear like they were going ice fishing or anything like that?
Not that I remember from B-Day, because I go to B-Day and I can't remember anyone dressed like that.
Okay. Any other questions before I get myself in trouble? No. Well, thank you. Thank you for giving us your time. I know you all have a big project, and I look forward to at some point perhaps seeing you all in person.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Night. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
See, you guys get me in trouble. Oh my goodness. I mean, it's the first thing I thought of. Not a good idea.
We're good at that, Angie.
Thank you, Robert. I appreciate it. The next item is Spotlight on Education, AGR report and achievement gap reduction. Who will be presenting this?
Mr. Over.
You said you wanted to hear from me last meeting, so.
There you go.
So I tried to simplify the AGR report a little bit for you. The overview is it's stand for achievement gap reduction. We use one of three strategies or a combination of one-to-one tutoring, instructional coaching, or maintaining 18 students to one teacher ratio. This is for our kindergarten through third grade classes. And then the requirements are obviously use one of those three or a combination of strategies, and then report to the DPI at the beginning of the year what strategies we're using, and then at the end of the year what we ended up, because they do allow you to change strategies, which is nice during the year. Set performance objectives to reduce the achievement gap, and then report to the school board, which we're doing tonight, to describe the implementation, report the objectives, and report the achievement. And then we get to do that at the end of the year as well. So we just broke down our performance objectives and progress so far by grade level, and by reading and math. So in kindergarten, our reading objective is to reduce the percentage of students scoring at the 25th percentile or below in half using the FastBridge letter sound screener. And the strategy we use in kindergarten is one class sizes. So in the fall, we had 25% of our students were scoring in that lowest 25th percentile. Winter, that has gone the wrong way. Sorry. And it's actually increased instead of cutting that in half.
Never mind, Mike.
Hopefully by the end of the year, we're at about 12%. And part of that, Krista and I, and even the kindergarten teachers have discussed that. Part of that is the assessment is timed. So it's all about fluency and knowing those letter sounds. So students have 5 minutes, 10 minutes, they would probably have all their sounds. But when it's a time test, sometimes you can see the little gears in the kindergarten head going of, okay, S, so how will we learn that? And then by then, they should probably have about 5 more letters. So it's definitely trending the wrong way, but we know why. We think that's a big part of it is that they don't have that automaticity yet. Yet is the key word that you see the teachers working on that in their different centers, and it's just one of the strategies to improve their letter recognition, which leads to read going forward. So
So Pat, a question that I had about this was, They weren't in school. I don't know if this has anything to do with 4-year-old kindergarten. But there now was I don't know what the expectation is. And so seeing the expectation from the fall, I just couldn't kind of wrap my head around it completely. If
It's a little different, you know, this is the first year we've used that assessment. And then there's a kind of a cut score or benchmark for the fall. And obviously that goes up.
Correct.
You know, this many more for the spring, this many more for the winter. So that could factor into that. They did okay in the fall and now the bar is raised.
Mhm.
They aren't quite there yet. And I like to use that word yet because they're, you know, we still have towards the spring to work towards that goal. And again, it's just one of the skills of reading and one of the things they're working on in kindergarten, so.
And then another question that I had is the 25th percentile. So do we ever have a goal of like no one is below the 25th percentile, or is that not appropriate for this type of data collection?
We could, I think, you know, it's a kind of a fine line between setting a realistic goal and setting it way too high. I would agree, we don't want anybody. Yeah, I
Right.
guess you're always gonna have the lowest 25th percentile, whether that lowest 25th is here or here or here.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, our goal probably is the flip side of that. We want 100% hitting the benchmark
Right.
would be our ideal for any of these scores.
Sure.
And that's, again, I think part of our continuous improvement is until we get 100%, we shouldn't be satisfied. And I don't, knowing the staff as I do now, that we're not going to be satisfied. There's always room for growth and improvement.
Thank you.
The math is kindergarten math is flipped a little differently. We want, that's more of that opposite growth. We want at least 80% of our students to recognize 80% of the numbers 0 to 30 with the number recognition screener and using the class size reduction. And that is headed in the right direction. We started the year with only 14%, which seems like a long way to get to 80%, but at the mid-year, we're already at 50%. So they're definitely on track for that. And then 1st through 3rd grade reading, again, we're trying to reduce that number, the percentage of students in that lowest 25th percentile in half, using the fast bridge early learning assessment for 1st grade and then the STAR reading for 2nd and 3rd. And that fits nicely using class size reduction, the one-to-one tutoring and the instructional coaching, which is those fit in with the different elements of our Title I plan, which again is to reduce that achievement gap as well. And all of those grade levels are definitely trending in the right direction. 1st grade, if we had 49%, hopefully by spring we'd have 24% or lower, and we're at 30%. And 2nd and 3rd grade is the same thing. They're actually very close to hitting that mark already. So that's trending in the right direction, which is good. And again, it ties in nicely with our Title I goals, and that's what's nice is we don't want this ADR to just be a separate goal, and then we have a title goal, and then we have teacher goals, and my goals for the school. They should all be kind of wrapped together, which is nice.
Was this testing new as well?
No,
You said the kindergarten that there was some.
the
was
kindergarten, that reading, fast bridge is new this year for kindergarten,
Okay.
just for that level.
Okay.
Then 1st through 3rd grade math, again, we want to reduce that percentage of students in the 25th percentile in half, using the STAR math screener, and again, using up those 3 strategies, the 18-to-1 ratio, the 1-to-1 tutoring and coaching. And again, those are definitely headed in the right direction as well. We're at 18% for 1st grade, we're down to 15%, hopefully get to 9% by the spring. In 2nd grade, 35%, down to 21% now in the winter, and hopefully at about 17% in the spring. And 3rd grade, same way. They're at 33%, and they're at 19%. Hopefully get to 16%. So definitely some good things in there. And you know, anytime there is some scores that don't quite fit, then we just take a look at that with that grade level and try to see what, you know, try to analyze what's going on, how can we improve. So we will be back at the end of the year to report again on how we're doing.
Do you know if this testing compared to other schools within the state testing, our expectations, when you say 25th percentile, have they lowered? Is that number lowered because students are behind? Do you have any idea? I just thought of that. I should have sent it to you earlier.
So the norms are always a bit delayed, so I don't know.
Okay.
Based on last year's data or even 2 years ago, but.
Okay.
The norms are set like for 2021 school year,
Okay,
like in advance. So,
I see.
so they haven't been recalibrated as students take the assessment.
Okay,
Those are pretty much set for the whole school year.
I'll be curious how that trends with so many students not being in school face to face. I don't know how they'll assess that, but it could look very different for us since our kids have been in school.
Well, one unique thing that the Renaissance assessment, so that would be the second and third grade reading assessment and the first through third grade math assessment, is they've added an initial question just this school year for everyone who enters the assessment. It asks, are you taking this at home or at school?
Oh,
So I believe at the end, I'll have this way to look at data, whether they just put it out in the report or what, but they'll be able to separate students who are in school or students who are at home. So that'll be an interesting layer of information to eventually take a look at.
to sift
They haven't
through.
come out with any reporting on that yet.
That will be interesting. I look forward to that. How about you, Kim?
Yep, I'm good. I think that's very interesting. It'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see because there are districts that never, will maybe hardly get to school this year.
Yeah. So is that the full data set? Or just, can we narrow that down to within the district?
The home and school piece.
Mhm.
I don't know how they're gonna present it yet.
Yeah.
I would guess they will collect it for the whole school year and then have
Mhm.
that information.
That's a great question. That'll be neat to see.
We can break it down with our class. list.
Sure.
I don't
Yeah.
know that wasn't
Yeah.
statewide and nationwide.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. Thank you. Look forward to seeing the next piece of it. Is there any public comment? I assume there is none. Thank you, Beth. Motion to approve the consent agenda, proof of public notice, approval of agenda, January minutes and voucher summary 1 in the amount of $156,389.82 as presented. Is there a motion?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Comments, questions? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Voucher summary 2, is there a motion to approve voucher summary 2 in the amount of $262,113.86 as presented? Is there a second? Questions? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I abstain. Donations over $250. Is there a motion to accept the donations in a total amount of $5,845.60? $700 from the Viroqua American Legion for football helmet decals and reconditioning, and $5,145.60 from the Gridiron Club for 2 additional football coaches, and we would always thank them for their generosity. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions? All in favor, vote by saying aye with all of our thanks.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Appointments. A motion to approve the appointment of Talia Klein, a .60 FTE intervention teacher for the rest of the 2020-21 school year. Is there a motion?
So move.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? The only question that I have is, do you think that this position could carry forward to next year?
We will definitely have that
Assess.
discussion, yep, as
Okay.
we go forward, but it's a need for sure. As we're looking at intervention and trying to close the gap in any which way you want to use that term. We need to make sure that we've got the right people in the right place, and this starts with Talia here for the rest of the year.
I appreciate the information that was sent at the summary of the individual and the process, the number of applicants. I appreciate that very much. Any other discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Is there a motion to approve the 2021 summer to have a summer school program?
So,
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, so what we're looking at right now is really diving into that process of planning for summer school. So we would like to make sure you guys are comfortable with having a summer school program. I know it's been an interesting, we look at last year's program and poor Mr. Obert, when we're like, hey, get going. And welcome and now go.
Under COVID.
Yeah, while we had all of these crazy things happening as well, and it was a great kind of trial period for us as well, where we could work out a few kinks before we had the whole crew back. And so this summer school year, this will look very different. We do need, to look at those and get those numbers up, as we had very limited participation last year for a variety of reasons. Shortened, schedule for that, and then also just people having major concerns about coming back into the building at that point in time. If we remember way back when it seems like years ago, doesn't it, Pat? I mean, years. It seems like years ago. So with that being said, we would like to approve, for you guys to approve that, hey, we can have a summer school program, and then we'll dive into it. It will look different this year. I can tell you that we are looking at moving forward and potentially, pending your approval at the next board meeting, having a summer school principal or director. When we look at this and really look at the administrative duties on top of giving an opportunity for a leadership position for someone within our staff would be a great opportunity. And so to really to take on that planning process, and I don't know, Pat, unless you really want it, but as we're going forward, I think that's going to be the best for the program itself, is to have someone that takes ownership of it and can really help with that planning process and take that and make that their own program. So we're working on a job description that we will be bringing forward whenever we meet next, whether it's in a workshop or in a regular board meeting. And so we're excited about that, and obviously programming needs to look a little different this year, as opposed to previous summers, not necessarily last summer, but we need to be making sure that we're mindful that we've got gaps that we need to close now that were created because of COVID, and we're going to be very very aware and really looking to kind of take that and attack that problem.
And in the past, we did have different people run the summer program. It was a little sporadic over time. We had a couple of years where somebody else did it. So it's not a totally new concept, but we have had that. Yep.
And especially right now, and I know that I'm gonna get yelled at, but what the administrators have done this year and what they've had on their plates is far more than what they've probably ever been asked to do. And so if we can give them an opportunity for, again, a person to have a leadership opportunity and grow within our own district, we're gonna give them that opportunity.
Well, as a parent who had a child that attended last year, just thanks for having that as an opportunity. He loved the program, so I'm excited to see, just jumping off of last year's successes and knowing what we know now, what the changes have been. So thanks for.
I think you might be surprised at the numbers you have. I think they could be quite large.
yeah.
Yeah, we're excited about that. Absolutely.
And I don't know if it's going to expand into middle school or if you've made any of those decisions yet.
Yeah. I mean, we'll offer some things. I don't know exactly the I don't have details on exactly what that would look like, but we would be looking at even high school. They've traditionally done credit recovery during the summer as well.
Okay. Sounds good. Look forward to it. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Trap Club Agreement with DeSoto. Is there a motion to approve the 2020-21 Trap Club Agreement with DeSoto School District?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? All right, with that, all in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Is there a motion to approve the facilities assessment contract with CSID 10? Is
So
there a second?
Second.
Okay. Robert, do you want to speak to this?
Building Grounds had lengthy discussion about the CISA 10 proposal to look at our facilities, do a full audit, and assess some of the needs that would need to be addressed. And I think the cost is just under $20,000. And this would be an independent one, and the Building and Grounds Committee voted to make this recommendation to the full board for their approval, wanting to get on their calendar and get started with this as soon as possible. And I think next, is it Wednesday is the date that they could come for initial visit.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Robert. The next item is informational, the pupil non-discrimination report. Kathy, want to share that?
Sure. So every year we have to report to DPI stating whether we've had any complaints in the area of discrimination. This is for the report for the year 2019-2020. And I'm very pleased to report that there were no complaints in the area of pupil non-discrimination for this year. Next year, it's going to be a bigger report when we have to look at some programming types of things, which we have to do every 5 years. But this is just a nominal, did you have any complaints in any of these areas? Sex, race, disability, religion, orientation, national origin, ancestry, creed, da, 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 da. And we had none. So I'm very pleased to report that.
Thank you. Any questions for Kathy? No. Thank you, Kathy. I hope the same thing happens next year. The next item is the preliminary 2021-22 budget. Mike?
Yeah, I have nothing, no. Picking up on Kathy's, you know. There's nothing to report.
Zero.
The 2021-22 budget, Tom and I, we've had a lot of conversations, and we could say this every year. Oh, next year it's going to be tough. This year is going to be very difficult. Typically, as we discussed last month, and we'll probably continue to explain, you know, so much of what we do is based on the number of students in our building. I mean, that's how we're funded, and that's how we staff, and that's where we spend our money. I mean, the money follows the kids. And we really don't have a great idea what that's going to look like next year. Will we have a virtual component that we need to address? Will we have everyone here? Will we need to have smaller class sizes because of where we're at, you know, space-wise? All those things, and with all uncertainty underlying every one of those areas. Couple that with, this is a biennium again. You hear a lot of posturing out of Madison. You hear there is money available, and you hear there is money available for schools. The Baird model update, you know, usually they have workshops that you can travel to have your model updated and latest and greatest. And they did it virtually this year, so that was last Thursday. And even as good as they are, and building scenarios and stuff, they straight out said, this is going to be very, very difficult for accountants and business managers and administrators, because so many of your underlying assumptions are going to be spiked up or down, whether it be enrollment, the ESSER funding is going, and it's not going to affect Viroqua the same as lacrosse. It's not, and so when you're looking at a 3-year process, or you're even looking just 1 year out, it's going to be very, very, very difficult, because we don't know if they're going to hold the per pupil at 0 or increase it to 150. Will they pull back the aid and say, listen, your property taxes can go up, or just the opposite, we're going to drive down property taxes because we know you've gotten this money, assessor funds. And we really, Tom's done a great job meeting with legislators and helping them understand where this is very not frustrating. It's the world in which we live, but there's a lot of things get to about 80%, you put them on hold. I mean, we can keep building a budget with this assumption, but we also know if it goes the other way, we're gonna have to start over. And so there's always a certain level of that. And I can drop in scenarios like crazy and put together a budget, but it's going to be tough. We do know CPI that has been set now for next, and what the wages would be. But we don't know what our staffing is going to look like. And in answer to your question on the one earlier, yeah, we feel there's going to be a need, but we don't know if there will be funds available for that or not, and how we're going to do that. So,
What is CPI? No, I mean, I know what it is, but I mean, it wasn't very high. It was like
1.23.
1.2.
1.23.
Oh, it was
Which is-
lower than, it
which
was
is
like
the amount
0.8 a
that
while
we
back.
are allowed to negotiate base
Right.
wages up to
1.23.
1.23% on last year's calculations.
Which is higher than it was a few months ago, but this is very low compared
Right.
to what we've been seeing typically.
Yeah, I saw it at 0.8 and I knew it had moved around, but I didn't know.
And again, we're not alone. I mean, schools are kind of in two camps. One, we're going to just plow forward and deal with it over a 3-year process, or some are really tentatively moving forward because, and we are one of those that has a healthy fund balance, as Kim mentioned. We do have some options available to us if, tax rates through the formula are supposed to increase. We have some things at our disposal that we can use to offset that. But even to build based on that is just a guess yet at this time. So it's going to be a tough budget process. I don't think it's going to be a tough budget year as far as cuts. I could be totally surprised on that, but it's just how are we going to get to the point where we feel comfortable to present the budget? I mean, that's, I mean, Tom, is that what you're hearing?
Absolutely. Yep. I think that's spot on. And I think, I know this board recognizes, and I know Mike does not like me saying this out loud, but to be in the position that we're in, and to be as comfortable as we are, I think is a testament to all the work that Mike has done over the past, how long has it been, 9 years now, something along those lines. And it's not that we're the uncomfortable feeling that we have is just the unknown right now. That's where Mike and I both are. It's not in the, we're not going to be able to do anything, as we move forward. That's not where we're uncomfortable, which is good. And so,
In a lot of what we're going to talk about in the next section on the ESSER does take a lot of focus too. I mean, it impacts your budget. It does. I mean, because you've got to say, okay, is this something, that's going to add a program or subtract? I mean, there's a lot of, yes. A lot of angst, I guess, as far as, is this the right thing to do? I mean,
this is kind of title on steroids
Yes.
is kind of how I'm feeling with it, which is, does this qualify first? And then, okay, is this the best use of our funds? I mean, and that's with every single decision that you're making. And so that's where it just feels, it's a lot.
Well, two things. So hopefully approving the CISA 10 to come in will give some direction and perhaps a 5-year plan. Hopefully, that's
Yes.
a piece of that. I know Evers is speaking tomorrow about his proposed budget, but that, to be really fair, doesn't mean a whole lot because I don't know what they'll approve and what they won't approve, but that's
The
happening
nice thing is it
tomorrow.
does, like, you gotta state your position, and both sides are doing that right now. And hopefully then you kind of move to a direction.
They've got to eventually come to a decision. They have to.
At some point, they're
So,
going to.
And you don't want to hire people that you can't keep on. So you don't want to hire someone for 2 years because you have funding and then you can't keep these folks. Plus, it's going to be more difficult to find people too, I think.
As much as that.
Yeah,
Yep.
because everybody's looking.
Right.
Thank you for that. And ESSER funding.
So the ESSER funding, I do have, we wanted to give you guys a good understanding as to where we're at, what we're looking at, both in what we've received in funds and how we've spent it to date, and then what's coming. So, and as I explained last month, there was the ESSER, and we're just gonna call that ESSER. We got the GEAR, which was a part of the original CARES Act, and it was, carved out for certain governor identified criteria that Viroqua qualified for. And then now we've got the ESSER 2 funds, and then anticipating a possible ESSER 3, or I don't know what they're gonna call that. But so in original ESSER, we had received about 310,000. And so far, we've, spent 105 on the needlepoint ionization system, 125,000 on Edmentum, and about 45,000 on cleaning supplies and equipment. Our sanitation processes are working great. They really are. It still amazes me, and it shouldn't, but it does, because I know human nature, to see the teachers as soon as the kids leave their room, and I'm not there inspecting on this. I'm just walking by, and they're grabbing the towels and they're wiping down every desk. And I mean, and it's making a difference. I mean, we have had great COVID transmission or lack thereof of rates, but I feel anecdotally in talking to other staff, we've got less pink eye, we've got less stomach viruses going through the, you know what I mean? And I think it's really making a difference. But there was cost to get those supplies and, the towels and the buckets and the additional, stuff like that. So I mean, that's been very well, and we'll continue to spend money on that to try to keep it going. The GEAR funding was about 145,000, and we just, out of simplicity, just bought Chromebooks with that, and basically used up all of our allocation for that. Those two we did share with Pleasant Ridge and Youth Initiative, and they've been spending on their outdoor classrooms and dealing with that, along with rental of some space around town to allow them to do their social distancing. Now, the ESSER 2 funds that we've been awarded right now on the spreadsheet, which it's not in the system yet for us to do, is just under 1.5 million. So we know we've, got our second semester in Edmentum, which is going to be a little bit less than the first semester, but still very significant. And, we've got, more money going for technology. These are some things that we've thought of, for that. Our amount of that ESSER 2 funds, if you followed in the news last week, and a newspaper can't report this because it's too hard to understand. Our allocation, when you look at the total amount of ESSER 2 funds that were spent or allocated out to every school district in the state of Wisconsin, ours were in column 1, which was that based on our Title I allocation. Then there was 2 more columns, and one was, a minimum of $100,000 flat, and then also a calculation that basically ensured that each district got $395 per student. And we didn't have anything in those because we exceeded that by far in column 1. The legislature last week, Tom, basically took columns 2 and 3 and said, "Whoa, wait." And I actually printed it off to kind of, summarize how it was, but, so basically they cut down the DPI's administrative costs to 700,000. And then they would keep some money going to a minimum grants of 100,000 per district in charter school. And the remaining 65 million would be divided up based on a formula that accounts for hours of in-person instruction during this school year. And only the 172 districts that were originally in line for funds under the DPI plan will be eligible. So we're not exactly sure where that leaves us. We know we're not going to get less. We fully believe we're not going to get less. There's a chance we could end up with more. There are some districts that are going to be very upset with this. The districts that are not in person. This is going to change them from a minimum of $295 per student to 0, or another number based on that. So we don't have our final allocation. We know we're at about 1.5 million. But that's where that's at. And I don't know, Tom, people you've talked to, if there's anything to add to that.
No, I think you summed it up. I mean, it was just, you did a very nice job with that. As we're going forward, we will not get less than that. There is a chance we'll get more, but we're not banking on anything. And that way, if we do end up with some more funds, we'll then go from there. But it'll be done in the spring here at the end of the semester. I believe in May, they're going to have us report from what we've been told. And then there will be a total number of in-person minutes will be the formula. And so then they will decide, from what I understand, almost decide how much a minute is worth and kind of go from there.
And the frustrating part, and Tom's learned this about me, whenever something like this comes on, well, what are they gonna, we've got kids that are A, B. Okay, so you can calculate kids A and B. Within that A, B, we've got some students coming 5 days for instruction.
Yep.
So I don't know how we're gonna get the report on this. It's not gonna be an easy number, and is it gonna be audited? Is it gonna be, how are they gonna tell if we, some of these districts that are going back to full-time now after January 1st? Can we assume that they're gonna be full-time for the rest of the year? Are they gonna have to go back to the hybrid? They haven't thought through it. I really don't think they know what they're asking. It's a desire to get students in person.
Yes.
That is
It's an incentive, yeah.
the incentive.
I would think that there would be a lawsuit actually if they go that direction from what I've read, because it can be discriminatory. Because if you look at the areas that haven't been back, there's a poverty piece to it, as well as a color of the person's skin. And so I just can't imagine that they would be legally able to make, I've read about it, but I just can't imagine that they can do that.
And the school board or the district is the one usually making all those decisions. Sometimes it's the county that's made the decision for them through the health department and said, you can't go back, or you can only go back with this many kids for this much time. So it's not, so they're penalizing schools who are actually put in a bind by health departments in the county they're in too, which I think is going to be another problem with all this.
And as I've learned to try to look at this, whether it be the athletics or whatever, I do wish sometimes we looked at how successful, yes, 5-day would be better and everything, but we've been very successful in this hybrid schedule. It's not as, I think people would say that, but I wish they would celebrate that a little bit more as to transmission rates have been able to now come down and stay low and all those types of things. But that's, I'm stepping off the soapbox right now. And stepping back and saying, that
It's going to be hard to figure, and it's not over. Like
no,
It's far from over.
Yep. And so we're not, we know what our baseline is, and that's what we know at this point.
so that's the update on that.
Thank you. District Administrator, school updates?
Yeah, we've got quite a few. We won't, I'll just kind of bounce through my list. When you guys have questions, just let me know. But at this point, charter enrollment period is happening now. So that closes on the 24th. I think that's all right. And then the lottery will follow as needed after that. So for those of you out there listening, if you want to put in your applications, please do that before the 24th here. We've got about 9 days to finish up that enrollment period. Vaccination updates. So we do have staff that is beginning to get vaccinated, and through a variety of means. So sometimes it's through they are over the 65 and older, and we're able to get in that way. We're really trying to represent our staff the best that we can in all of these arenas. And so we've got, we're encouraging staff to reach out to the providers, and some have been successful in getting a vaccine that way. And then constantly working with our county and seeing, when we can get anything for our staff. And so we're going to continue with that. Again, we do have staff that is beginning to get vaccinated at this point. So that's extremely exciting. We've had this conversation with admin a few times over the past couple of weeks. There were moments where we didn't know if we would be having some of these conversations this year. And it's extremely exciting to be having these conversations. With that being said, the CDC did issue some brand new guidelines. And that was on Friday. They came out, even though they told us at the beginning of the week, it would be at the beginning of the week. And then at the middle of the week, they told us the middle of the week. But anyway, they came out on Friday, and we are still taking some time to digest those. Some highlights, major highlights that we've got that did come out. They still want social distancing whenever possible, or as to the extent possible is the term that they are using. Another thing that it does stick out, and again, we haven't had a chance even as a team to sit down and talk about this yet. We will on Wednesday. Is the availability of vaccines should not be a factor in making your decision between go from one model to another, and that's for a variety of reasons. One, obviously the availability is sporadic right now throughout the country, throughout Wisconsin. It's sporadic. The second piece is not everybody is going to get vaccinated. That's another thing that is a consideration. And then the last thing is somewhere around 90% of the people in our buildings are not going to be vaccinated because it's not approved for anyone under 16 yet, and only those that are 16 to 18 that work in the medical field. So CNAs, students like that. And so there's a variety of reasons that shouldn't be, a deciding factor. So those are the biggest few takeaways that we've had. And again, not being able to sit down and talk through that all the way. It is very comprehensive, and it actually is pretty much to the point, which I was excited about. So when we normally get CDC updates, DHS updates, I don't know. I don't want to throw any organization under the bus, but it's a lot of, hey, you've got plenty of options, make your best decision. Here's the information, those kind of things. And these are legitimate recommendations, and they tell you, and when you should be in school in person with everybody and not with everybody. And so, it's a very good system that I would anticipate if history serves us. If they follow what they've been doing, DHS will adopt these very shortly. And then if Vernon County follows what they've been doing, they will adopt DHS's recommendations as well. So as we go through, we'll keep you posted on that. Any questions about that? Again, we haven't had a chance to sit down even as an admin team yet because they were hot off the press. Thursday evening or Friday morning, I can't remember. So the days run together, guys. I'm not gonna lie. All right. So then as we go and move forward, we talked about this over the last couple of board meetings. The 5 days a week, 7/12 planning, now, we continue to consult with the county on a very regular basis. I made a joke to Beth, I think the other day, that at this point, the county calls and they, when I leave a message on my voicemail, they don't even necessarily finish their whole first name. So now it's not, you know, it started off as, hey, this is so-and-so from the county, you know, health department here, you know, and now it's just, hey, Tom, it's AIM. And I'm like, I never envisioned in my entire life that would be the relationship that I would have with the county health department, but hey, they're doing a fabulous job, and they are really a champion for not only us, but Vernon County in general. And then also continuing with our meetings with the VMH Medical Advisory Team, which I believe, Kathy, you're on. We have one in the morning, I believe. Another update from them where we can, you know, continue to. Thank you, Kathy, for confirming that. Continuing to bring together a very talented group of people that can offer perspective that we just don't have, and that's where we have been really relying on our medical advisors and our county to tell us, you know, hey, here's some data. How do we interpret this? You know, how do we, you know, we can look at, and you saw a little bit of a glimpse of that earlier. You know, we can look at achievement data, and that we're the right people. We're the ones that should be asked those questions, right? With medical medical decisions, we are not the right people, even though we are, you know, being put into that position. So we will continue to do that, and really, this is where we can begin the process of planning for our return to 5-day-a-week education. And really now it's looking at when is that smooth transition time. Now, that's always, as we move forward, we have to continue to be flexible. When we say, hey, we're looking at this, if we have a major spike, a transition, this is all with the caveat of if, you know, we remain where we're at or get, you know, numbers continue to improve. We have to be flexible, and I think we've done so while also offering a consistency to our staff and our students and parents and community for that matter. And so we're going to continue to do that, and we won't be, you know, making any quick or rushed decisions. We need to make sure that it's the right time for us to do so, and we want to be back. I think that is a sentiment that I can share with everyone, because we know that the hybrid model is, while it's doing exactly what we needed it to do from a medical standpoint, it's not the best way to educate kids, and we know that. And so that's where we will continue to have those conversations, and so continue to look for updates for that. Any questions about that? I know that was a lot. Okay. Elementary school sock hop has been canceled, unfortunately. I'm not sure how long that has been happening, but I know that was a big deal. And again, I've never seen it, so I can't really give you any of that historical context, but yes. Okay. An update on the after-school program. I've been getting more questions about this for the last couple of years, I think, right, Mike? We've been partnering with the public library to offer an after-school program during the school year. I met with the public library reps this week. We're looking at continuing that partnership, but also looking at potential expansion of that program looking into next school year. We know that the need is going to be there, and the need is always great for, you know, before or after school programs. And so we'll be looking at different ways that we can provide resources and programming for our students. And then last, Kale Anderson is our state champion in the 152-pound weight class, and Division II state champ. So he has been there 4 years in a row. We're extremely proud of Kale. I talked with him a little bit today. He's thrilled. He's still riding that high, and so is his coach and his dad. So with that being said, I think, you know, we definitely need to continue to understand the job that Eric's done this year, to, you know, not only give his son, but all wrestlers and athletes the opportunities that they've been given this year, that so often we've taken for granted now. And now I guarantee that won't happen again. As we're moving forward, another big shout out to Kathy Reed. Kathy set up this celebration afterwards, which we had, I would say, what'd you say, Kathy, about 50 people total that came? came to the gym, and Kathy set that up for, kind of his welcome home. And that was really cool that we were able to offer some kind of some kind of normal during this time. And again, it wasn't a huge or major, celebration, but it was something that we were able to do for him. And we did send him off on Friday afternoon with the staff as we kind of lined the hallways and cheered him on as walking to his last practice, which was an emotional time there. And then we will be, I believe, planning something else as far as a walk for the students. I don't know exactly, did we plan on tomorrow or did we not finalize that yet?
We have co-curricular reports too.
Oh, I'm sorry. I am absolutely stepping on the next report. I am so sorry. Jason's sitting there just crossing off different things. I apologize. Okay, I will bounce to my WASP session updates. You guys can see my notes right in there. I'm just going to highlight a few things. First of all, the opening general session with Donald Driver was very good. I think that he was.
That's just because you like him.
I absolutely love Donald Driver. Are you kidding me? Yes, 2 thumbs up. Mr. Olbert over there just said who, as he's a Cowboys fan. But anyway, it was a great motivational speaker for opening the sessions. Another one I want to point to is presenters were Drew Howick and John Bales, and moving your board from good to great. And that was a workshop. And really just talked about the importance of focusing the board, aligning our work, and then committing to that work and really following a process that we will be looking into as we move forward and taking bits and pieces of that. And a great presentation there. And then the other one I just want to point out and give another shout out to was the Howard Swamico School Board. And they presented as a team for what they called school board linkages. And that's expanding your vision. And what they do is, it's really a great model, is that 8 out of the 12 months, they have what's called a linkage meeting. And so they bring in different subgroups of their owners, right, essentially. And so they have parent groups, they have local government officials, they have higher education, institutions of higher education, and they bring everybody in for very quick, meetings where we'll give a very brief history of where we're at, and then also talk about, hey, where are they when they're representing that group of people? What do they feel we need to work on? How can we improve? And really creating that desired outcome, that desired future that we want for Viroqua area schools. So extremely exciting and something I think we definitely need to be looking at. We don't need to follow everything to the exact letter, but we also don't need to reinvent the wheel if there's a good process out there that we've seen the results that we want to achieve in the end. So that's my update. Again, you can see some of my very brief notes in there as we move forward. Any questions on that? All right. I'm done. Now you can bounce to them for their very exciting reports that I took all of the good stuff. Sorry.
All right, Jason, you are up.
So, you want both of my topics or just want co-curricular right now?
I want everything you're going to speak to. Is that
So
okay?
enrollment update's pretty short. We've had high school wise between Viroqua High School, Laurel, and Better Futures. First semester to second semester, we had a net gain of 20 students that entered the hybrid model that had gone from full online to hybrid. So, so we saw a little bit of shift between the 3 of them. Co-curriculars is a lot shorter than it was. More in here.
Sorry.
But I think the hit on kind of a lot what Mr. Burkholder said, I think, and the work that Eric has put in. I tried to keep in track. So boys hockey had 16 games, girls hockey had 13, and girls hockey actually finished at the top of their point standings in the Badger Conference this year. Gymnastics, they were debuting. There's a new venue in La Crosse called the Peg that was actually hosting sectionals, and They did very well this last weekend there. Besides Kale, obviously very proud of Kale's accomplishment. There was actually 4 other wrestlers that had advanced to sectionals. And for those that know wrestling, typically from sectionals to state, they usually take the top 3. Because of sizing this year, they chose to just do the top 2. And we had 2 of our 5 actually took 3rd. So in a typical year, we would have actually had 3 of our wrestlers advance to state.
What a shame.
Girls basketball was able to have 19 games this year, had their first conference win in 3 years, and hosted a home playoff game. Boys basketball was able to get 15 games in. They actually travel to Poinette tomorrow night for a second round regional game.
That's Friday night.
Friday night.
Friday night.
Because the first round would be, and we have a bye in the first round.
Oh,
So Friday night, we travel to Poinette as the number 3 seed. And as I talked to a bunch of the coaches, I think a lot of what they were just very appreciative is their athletes had a chance to compete and have as normal of a schedule as possible. They wanted to thank the school board for that and administration on behalf of their athletes, because some of the seasons were a little bit shorter, and some of the seasons had some bumps here and there, or some time off here and there. But all in all, they were able to participate in the sports they love. And as we entered the winter season, I mean, we just kind of held our breath anew with pretty much everything indoors, and we're looking forward to the outdoor season. Everything gets outdoors, and a lot of the sports are a whole lot more socially distanced. And the nice thing with the shortened seasons, actually, a lot of them don't start for quite a while now, because if you remember, WIA has the second fall season is starting soon. So some schools can probably start girls tennis in a couple of weeks. Outside, but we were able to get all of our fall seasons over, which is good for a lot of our athletes to be able to get a little bit of a break in their schedule. So a lot of those, I think, are even starting like early mid-April type of thing. So there'll be a little bit of a gap in there. And like I said, it'll be good. A lot of them are outside. So we have signups already starting for those, and but still wrapping up the last few winter sports. So thank you to the board for allowing these opportunities to occur.
so is this, Jason, the time period that we used to have a play or a musical or something, or am I wrong?
We've had plays and musicals around this time of year in the past.
That's what I was wondering. I didn't know, are there any, I don't know how,
We decided not to go
Individual.
forward with a full scale one this year.
I assumed that,
And so
yeah.
we are working, which is kind of a side note, we're working on some Wednesday activities for some full scale music events that we're trying to get planned, similar, not to the scale of what we did in the fall with band, but to still give students some opportunities at the different levels to compete in those type of activities that get us a love too. So, and then hopefully things will be different, because the musicals and the plays will give a run again in the future. So.
Great, thank you. And John, would you like to go next?
Yeah. So the middle school I'll do an enrollment update first. We had 24 students return from virtual to hybrid, which I think is a really good message. And the culture of the building, it even feels different. You wouldn't think that many students would make a difference, but it really does. So, and that's a taste of what's coming in the future. That's exciting. So we, PBIS in the middle school is very different from 5th and 6th grade to 7th and 8th grade. 5th and 6th graders still really buy into the golden tickets. They're still just the learning expectations of when you approach an activity or event. Students really need that reminder frequently. 7th and 8th graders have been down the road a while, and they kind of start to roll their eyes at you, like, okay, we don't want to behave. Let's get on with the show here. So it's really different. But what students really do is buy into getting, when we talk to them about getting their homework done, positive behavior, helping another student, showing appropriate behavior in the hallway. We're different incentives. We have little auctions still. We have sixth grade, for example, when students all got caught up in everything, they went sleigh riding for, it was about an hour and 40 minutes, so it wasn't like a full day thing. Or ice skating at the park wall, they walked over. Fifth grade has a little plan to go out to the arena to go skating for a couple hours. So it's really pretty neat, and students just love it. And the teachers, for sometimes, year after year, how old some of this gets, they still get very excited about it. Planning it and watching students get excited, it's really pretty neat. So PBIS, and then we get more complicated with meeting as a student services team to try to figure out what we need to do to help the students with behavior so that they can focus on their goals as much as possible. That's probably one of our largest barriers of growth. It's just family issues, student issues, social issues that really occupy their minds. They don't pay attention, they don't do their homework, don't do those things. So it's like a huge puzzle trying to figure all that out to make it the best for students. So that's it.
So I heard a parent ask the question, if you went from virtual back into the classroom, they were concerned that there were going to be gaps because the virtual education wasn't on the same timeline or scheduling of information as perhaps the school was. Do you think they were pretty aligned or not necessarily?
You know, I brought this up at our student services meeting today. And I don't know how much on like social media we follow. I'll follow different educational sites, and I don't know what's causing it. I didn't read into it enough or see who the person was, or whatever. But there are people posting their stories on social media, and I think it's to de-escalate everybody. Like this parent, for example, this particular story was he is a college professor now. And he said his family was just kind of a mess growing up. He really didn't have education for 4 years. They moved, he was hidden, they were homeschooled. And he said, I still turned out. Can everybody relax? Yep. We all maybe missed something. We all have some hurdles. We all have hills and valleys in our lives. But it's up to each of us to make it turn out okay. And so I've been reading more of these. They're just like showing up on my feed. I don't know why people are doing it. I think it's to bring calmness to.
It's a good message.
All of it. And, and I think as we all do our own little inventory or soul search, there are periods of our life where a particular grade where we just didn't feel connected. Our family may be totally in place, our life, our social, or athletics, or music, or whatever, but we just didn't connect that year with the teachers or whatever, So when John Nelson spoke a few years ago at one of the senior banquets, he said there was 1 year especially, he considered that his loss because he just couldn't make it work for him. The class was too compelling. So I don't know. We just have to me, we have to just be careful and stay positive, and through all of these times, the misinstruction, the lack of instruction, especially for middle school age students, because they really depend on the structure and our leadership and our guidance. They really do. And I think they're realizing that more and more. The parents are too. And it's hard. So it's really hard for them. So
Thank you.
Yeah. No longer answer.
No, it's good. Thank you. Pat?
Yeah, following John and Jason's lead, our enrollment has not changed a lot at the elementary and advanced. Elementary, it kind of seems like it changes daily. Not so much who's coming back from virtual to in-person, but just seems like we have 2 that move in and 2 or 3 that move out. And it kind of seems like more than it is, but it stays about the same. But switching from virtual to in-person, we had about 6 from first semester that came back in person, second semester for the elementary, and for Montessori, only 1 student switched modes. That includes the E2, the 4th through 6th grade over in John's building. So that's stayed pretty steady. We've got about 16-ish, 17% of our elementary students are doing virtual, and a little more than 50% of our advanced population was doing virtual. You know, I think some are starting to feel more comfortable, but they haven't made a switch, so I think I can see it. And maybe just kind of riding out for this year. And it's been good, again, the teachers really have done a good job without much of anything, or maybe nothing for me. They've done a great job learning this and providing it, and we all know, and they know it's not the same. So they've had to really change their practice to try to meet these kids' needs. So it's been impressive, so I think it'll be, I look forward to getting them back and being a staff together next year, I hope. Because I don't feel like I have a good relationship with the virtual teachers, but I think they can bring a whole new skill set back with them of things they learn too. And then PBIS, kind of again bouncing off what John said. You know, to me, it is our overall system of, you know, we say behavior management, but that's a piece of it. It's our system. That's what we look at when our data of student behaviors and our practices, and it's not just student behavior, it's the adult behavior too, of how we talk to kids and how we respond to misbehavior. And again, at the elementary, it's a lot of it is we need to make sure we teach, model, and practice, and reteach and model and practice, and we keep doing that for behaviors, because I think we have to assume that these kids aren't coming to us with these skills. We can't assume that they know how to walk quietly in the hallway, or walk in the hallway, or how to use the bathroom, and all those things. I was trying to kind of reflect on things of like, are we missing things with our PBIS? But I think part of it is the beginning of the year and stretching into quite a bit of the first half of the year was so much on teaching the safety aspects of, you know, we do some things like our Black Hawk wings to stay as far apart as we can. Little arms aren't 6 feet, but that's, you know, as far as they go, and how to wear the mask and when to keep those on, or when to break, and hand washing. There were so many of those things, I think, that in a typical year we might teach more of. They still teach how to walk in the hallway, those common expectations, but I think the focus was so much on safety. But again, I think, like Mike said, it's paying off, because we aren't seeing the spread of COVID, or even to a lesser degree, strep throat and all the things that we see in competitions. You know, and again, it's a positive. You know, that's the PBIS is positive, so it's not a punitive system. There are consequences, and we keep data of misbehavior, but the big thing is the reteach to be positive. Individual classrooms do Black Hawk hero slips for acknowledging behavior, and then we've had school-wide celebrations, which have been, I think, a lot of fun. We begin to shift how we do it when we do it. Yeah, movie day earlier on in the year, and how many kids can we have in the cafeteria at a time, and it's spread over multiple days instead of just one movie day. We had all school bingo, which I might have a career in calling the bingo. Zoom, which was a lot of fun right before our holiday break.
When this gets better, I'll let you do it at the lead, and then we'll find out.
We'll see how good you really are.
You don't want that.
You know, and then we have an all-school, instead of a dance or a sock hop, we've got an all-school Zoom dance party within their classrooms, and also dressing up as the decade that they want to, from the 60s, 70s, 50s, 50s, 60s, 70s, through the 2000s. So again, it's trying to acknowledge the good behavior and doing it in a different way this year. So, yeah. What I like is and again, we meet with our student services as well to try to help students that are struggling, and teachers that might be struggling with some behaviors. But there's, like anything I found in my short time here, there are so many positives, and one of them is the student behavior. There are some typical student behaviors, but if you had to generalize it, the behavior is broken. There are some very well behaved kids, and that's a testament to their families and the teachers that they have this year and previous years. So there's good stuff going on here.
Thank you.
Before we move on, we do want to just mention that for Kale, tomorrow, I believe, in all the buildings, we will be lining the halls, and he's going to do what do we call it, champions walk, So
In
he's gonna-
elementary school?
All of
Oh,
them, yep.
great.
So he's gonna go through the
They're
middle
gonna
school and the high
love it.
school and in the elementary, and I believe they're gonna do it a couple of different times at the high school potentially. I'm not sure. Are they gonna do that?
We have an AV schedule.
I know. You get to does it ever feel like Groundhog's Day for you? Like, you know, right now.
Actually,
Twice a week, yes.
Is he gonna have his medals and all that?
I'm not sure exactly.
I have not told him how to dress.
Yeah.
I'm just saying the elementary kids would love that.
Yeah, yep. So,
Over decades, I was trying to think in my mind, I figured Santa could probably be in any of the decades.
there you go. There you go. So we're very excited about that and giving him, an opportunity not only for him to, be recognized, but also for, the elementary kids are just gonna, I can see that being a very big highlight there.
In the elementary before, we've had our cross-country runners that have gone to state,
Mhm.
have gone to the walk over there and some different things too. So
Mhm.
it is definitely well received.
Speaking of medals, Angie, the irony of this is, as students go through different tournaments, just regular season, the medals are like extreme,
Yeah, right.
And then the state champion or state qualifier medal is like the size of your thumb.
It was a
This
very
is
nice
like-
champion medal.
Mhm.
Very nice.
Yep. All right, thank you.
Thank you. The next is the board report.
Oh, we do
Oh,
have
Child
child
Development
days
Days,
there.
you get
Oh,
Kathy.
Kathy, I'm sorry, Kathy. I'm
Don't be
focused on-
sorry.
I'm focused on medals. I'm on.
Yes. Child Development Days has not been able to happen like we did in previous years as well, just like other things. So in your report, you have the poster that we sent out to local businesses, daycares, media, and sent out questionnaires to families we have on our census, and they can call in. We will take those developmental questionnaires, score them, and reach out to those families that we may want to see and do an in-person connection with. But we're doing it a little bit differently this year, using media, social media, sending things in the mail, and then reaching out to families. So it's a little bit different this year, but still connecting to our child find. Any questions?
I don't know if you're finding, just to Pat's reference of families moving in and moving out, are you finding that it's more difficult because it's a little more transient at all on top of COVID, or not necessarily?
I think we're using more modalities to get that interest. Social media, we're hitting it hard. Radio, or paper media, sending out letters. So hopefully not. It's different. It's definitely been different in the special ed realm. We have them coming in and going out, but for child development days, I don't really know if it's been that much more difficult. It's been different, but I guess we'll see what our numbers are coming in as. We're still collecting that data.
Thank you. So now we'll go to board report, WASB legislative update. It's kind of intertwined with the convention, actually. So there's really nothing specific other than Evers is speaking and to the budget topic that Mike spoke to. Vicki, do you want to talk about the sessions that you've watched so far?
Sure. I thought I would watch more during the week, but that did not happen because people kept putting meetings on my calendar even though I had it blocked. What I love about this year's convention is the fact we can go back and we have access to these all year. So I didn't feel too bad about that. I did watch the keynotes. I thought Donald Drivers was really interesting. He sure loves to give us motivational quotes. But he was he was just really heartfelt and, you know, just genuine, had a lot of good messaging in his talk. I enjoyed that. The second general session, again, I really liked hearing how people talked about their early influences in their lives, how that influenced what they did later. Just made me think, like, the more kids we can reach out to, jobs or board work or whatever, you know, we're making an impact. So that was good to watch. Closing session. I just had a few notes there. You know, with Governor Evers putting kids first, and I love the kids messaging, it was great. Talking about investment in broadband for sure. You know, having heard some of the stories here in Viroqua, I'm really happy that there's money being put towards that. People have, through the pandemic, realized how important it is to have connectivity and have that access, and it's part of equity, part of providing opportunity fairly to everyone. Then the breakouts. So Tom, I tried to watch the moving from good to great, but I realized looking at it, it wasn't recorded, but looking at the slides, I am pretty sure they did that a couple years ago. And Angie, did you go to that
I
one?
did. Yep, I thought the same thing
And I
when I saw
remember
the
it
slides.
being really good. I thought there's a book that Howard and Associates has out about facilitation. It's
Yes.
a really good book. I bought it for work.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's a good one. I watched the special ed one and I saw Sarah Johnson presented.
really?
She used to be on our board and used to
Teach. She taught here too. Yeah. Is she still in Appleton?
She's in the Green
Brown
Bay
County.
area now. She's
Oh.
in charge of the, it's one of only 2 schools in Wisconsin that is a special ed school up in the Green Bay area.
Good for her.
So it was a nice session with smaller schools talking about how they delivered special ed services, the challenges they faced, some of the learnings, you know, their lessons learned, best practices. And so that's a really great one to watch. You'll hear a lot of good stories about working with kids, working remotely and coaching parents to be the teacher when parents didn't know they could even do that. So that was a really great session. The linkages one too, because Tom was watching it. I took your list and thought I should be watching these. That was a good one. There are 8 meetings. I thought it was a really good strategy for connecting with your community and then getting that feedback and putting it into action. And I copied the model of their I forget what they call it.
Profile of graduate. Yep.
Thank you. You know, really what they're trying to achieve. And then I just made a little list so I can keep going and keep watching these things. They're interesting. A lot of them you can just listen to while you're, I was editing some stuff for work. It's like a podcast. You don't really need to watch what's on screen because a lot of them are not really action packed. So just pull them up on your computer and push play.
Thank you. So I put notes on here and everyone can read them. I found it to be done very well. It was easy to access after Beth helped me a little bit with my password. Shockingly. And I really thought they did a nice job with the presenters. And I did get kicked out of one. All of a sudden, everybody just got kicked out. But it was towards the end. But I could see them carrying this forward for sure. I don't know what it's going to look like in the future. I will be honest though, many times I would go up and speak to somebody on what they did and ask about our district, and with the chats, it just doesn't transfer the same. So if you are really interested in a talk, you just don't have building that relationship, that they have some additional information that would be helpful. But so my takeaways, most important was putting the best teacher putting the best teacher in front of the students, and we all know that. But that's something that was emphasized often, having a strategic plan. Purpose, what is our purpose? And making sure you stick to your purpose. High goal expectations, that was brought up in many of the breakouts that I went to. If you expect little, you will get less than what you expect, so expecting high. Decide what data to collect, which we're in the process of working on. Preparing students for the future. So this was a session, this was the one that I enjoyed the most. And in 8 years, from 2019, 50% of the jobs that were available at that time will not exist. And so that is now escalated from COVID and everything being virtual. People are already becoming more comfortable ordering everything online, grocery shopping online. So it has actually moved that. So they're thinking in 5 to 6 years, 50% of the jobs that exist today will not exist. So when we're teaching our children today, we're not talking about, your kindergartner. You're talking about not talking about your middle schooler. You're actually talking about your seniors that are going on right now, and what we're training them for. It doesn't exist, or won't. And so what they were talking about is you need to, they talked about literacy, I'm sorry. And so students, that's one of the most important things is literacy, and having them be able to read, comprehend, evaluate, assess information, and draw their own conclusions, which I thought was very, that made perfect sense. And that people have to be creative, and they have to be able to think in a broad way in order to problem solve. So working with groups and problem solving, those were like the two main things that we should be teaching our children. It talked about how we have emphasized memorization and things like that, and they said that was not good. Number one, you have this thing that you carry with you all the time, and it has almost everything on it. But if you know how to evaluate the information, then you're going to be much more successful in the future. And then they talked about, artificial intelligence. Obviously, that's a big piece of why these jobs aren't going to exist any longer. So it was a little depressing, I have to tell you, but it made me think that we need to really change what we do and how we do it. And if you have the opportunity to listen to this session, I certainly would. It was well done. And then I listened to one about stress, and that was also very interesting. All the different types of stress, handling stress, how much stress people are under, how it's affecting them. So that one was good also. And you could take it out of COVID too. Just, all of the, having a wedding creates stress. So there's good stress, bad stress, and a combination of all those things. Standards-based teaching and learning, that was well done also, about going towards a standard-based teaching so that it's consistent and grading is consistent and the information that you're sharing with your students is consistent. I went to one about evaluations. I don't think that's anything you would all be shocked over. Every student will and can learn. That message was sent often. Continuous improvement, and how our goal needs to be continuously improving what we're doing and thinking to the future. Learners need to solve problems and critically think, which goes back to the artificial intelligence in order to be ready for the future. Relationships and communication, how important it is for students to build relationships and be able to communicate with their teachers. Mentoring was a big piece of that, and building those relationships and the students having trust in their teachers and the people they're in contact with. And then a focus on equity. and how we all need to do a better job, whether someone is impoverished, a different color, from a different background, different religion. We really need to have more reading materials that are multicultural, sharing what other people look like, where they come from, what they eat, what they, how their family structures are, from the very beginning of our curriculum through the end, so that people are more compassionate and more understanding of people that they don't know anything about. So that's what I got out of it. Donald Driver, he does like to speak in a little rhymes. The one thing I got out of that, though, is second chances. And he got a second chance, a couple of second chances that changed his life. He would have been incarcerated and perhaps would have died. And so giving everyone a second chance, they're just kids. So that's what I have. Anyone else want to share anything if they have gone to any of the breakouts? All right, we'll have this on the agenda again, but only if you have something to present. So I know that these are available all year, so if you're going to attend any of them, if you could get the information to Beth by the Monday, a whole week before our board meeting, that would be fantastic. And then we'll share it moving forward. And I'd like to thank the district for allowing us to go to these. And if there's any that administrators find of interest that they would like to watch, I believe that they can as well. Anything else? All right, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Have a great evening.
You too.